You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts Uncle Mike Tusaw from St. Charles Wealth Management, along with Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian and Andrew the Rock Lobster Giovinazzi from OptionPit.com. If you trade options, you want to be smart about every decision. So why not choose the smartest platform for your trades? At Public.com, you can view upcoming earnings dates directly in the options chain. You can queue and execute multiple orders simultaneously. Easily view contract performance over time. And if you have a question about any stock, you can ask Alpha, their AI for investors. But want to know the smartest part of trading options on Public? Earning rebates on every single contract traded. No other platform provides options trading rebates, and they reduce your trading costs to less than $0 per trade. So, make the smart move and switch to Public.com, the only options trading platform where you can earn rebates on every single contract traded. Paid for by Public Investing. Options not suitable for all investors and carry significant risk. Full disclosures in podcast description. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back. It is Monday. It is time to kick off another trading week. And man, did we have a heck of a weekend. You know, I've been saying it for a while. We have literal weekend risk out there. There's a reason why pretty much for every show since the start of the pandemic, I have signed off just about every show we do with stay safe out there. I mean it. I want you folks to stay safe out there. You are the reason we do this after all. There's no audience. I'm just speaking into an empty mic at the end of the day. But these are crazy times we're all living through out there. So just something to bear in mind. Keep your head on a swivel out there. Stay safe, of course. We were a couple of inches away from coming into the start of this week. Very different world, very different markets, obviously, to kick off this week. So kind of hard to not look back on things. It makes you look at other similar scenarios. You know, interesting times, again, that we are all living in. My name, of course, Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as from the network upon which all of you folks are listening to these days. Again, crazy starts to the week here. Of course, RNC kicking off this week as well. So just here's breath from having no nominee on one side, and then the other side, the head nominee is in flux heading into the major party cycles. Would have been just chaos across the board, just all sorts of things that makes you wonder, makes you also think back to how this has played out in the past. Again, it's not our usual kind of fun subject for a trivia segment, but, you know, it's kind of unavoidable, unfortunately, in these days we're all living in. So we'll just get to the trivia right now. I am joined, of course, by the uncleest of Mikes, Mr. Uncle Mike Tusaw from St. Charles Wealth Management, as well as by the rockingest of lobsters, Mr. Andrew Giovinazzi from OptionPit.com. No music on this one, I don't think. It's not exactly the most festive of topics, but it got me wondering as we saw this. I think for a lot of people, all these events that played out over the weekend, the historical precedent for them. When's the last time we all saw something like this? And I vividly recall, many of you who were alive in the 80s, it does fall, unfortunately, under the purview of our trivia contest, was pretty much the last time we all saw anything like this. Of course, it was the failed assassination attempt on Ronald Reagan. So let's get out there now. Let's open up the phone lines here to our buzzers. What was the year? We got a buzz from Andrews. He's going first. What was this? Make it simple. What year did they attempt to shoot Reagan, Mr. Rock Lobster?
I'm going to say 83.
Interesting.
Oh my gosh.
Interesting. The answer would be no. Uncle Mike, can you steal?
1981.
Yes. It was all over the news this weekend.
Dang.
You know, that kind of struck me as just crazy as well, how early it was. I did just go look, and it was 2 months into his term. He had just been inaugurated a few months before. It was March of 1981. So literally 2 months into taking office, someone tries to kill you. That has to mess with your head, I would think. And they come pretty close. You do get hit. Just crazy town. Let's add an extra half point for this one as well. Why not? Reagan wasn't, unfortunately, the only person hit that day. There were other people, including his press secretary. What was the name? Who did survive as well. Everyone survived that day, thankfully. Anyone have the name for the press secretary? I need a buzz. I can't just shout it out. You got to type a buzz.
It was Tusaw Buzz first.
Okay, Tusaw, go ahead.
Destruction.
Tusaw, go ahead.
Brady.
Yes. What was his first name?
Jim, I believe.
Yeah, Jim James Brady. Tusaw, 1.5 points.
Yeah.
There you go.
This is getting ugly. Getting ugly.
Yeah, Mr. You said you wanted no charity. There is indeed no charity out there, but I do have vivid memories of this. I was only about 5 at the time, I believe. So I was pretty young, and I remember I had a friend over. We were probably playing He-Man in my playroom somewhere or something like that. And I have vivid memories of my mother bursting into the room and just shouting, "They've shot Reagan!" And I was, barely 5. So my first thought was like, "Who the hell's Reagan?" And then B, I was more concerned that my mother was so hysterical at the time. It's one of those things that makes an impression all these years later. Just crazy times we are all living in, listeners. Hope you're staying safe out there as we keep on rolling into the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the Trading Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Trading Block, the portion of the show where we break down what the heck is trading. And, sometimes it seems minimalist to make these kind of comments about what impact these types of events would have on the market, but that's what we do here on a show like this. And so, you would expect a few inches, a few millimeters, a few centimeters in one direction or the other for that bullet, and we would be having a very different conversation today, listeners. As it is, the markets seem like they're kind of a bit of in rally-ho mode out here right now. S&P up. It was up more, up about 0.6%, giving some of that back now, up about 0.4%. The Dow up about 0.5%, and the NASDAQ up about 0.5% as well. My goodness, Russell 2000 small caps, I guess they're continuing their rotation today, up 1.6% out there. So small caps up, let's just see, just over the past 5 days, 7.5%. So you're talking almost a year's worth of average returns for any major index just in the past 5 days in the Russell 2000. So, yeah, these are indeed crazy times we are all living in after some certainly dicey moments over the weekend. VIX coming in right now, literally unched from where it was on the Thursday show at a 13. VVIX actually coming in slightly down to an 82, down about 3 points out there. Again, we've been talking for a while on shows like Volatility Views. There is quite literal weekend risk out there. We saw it again play out in front of our eyes this past weekend. People have always asked, what are some interesting ways you could maybe protect yourself from it? Russell, our buddy over there on Vol Views, has been experimenting with this weekend carry trade in UVIX. Nothing's riskless, obviously, at the end of the day, listeners, but it does seem from his back testing and the few times he's actually implemented it, it actually is fairly nominal from a risk perspective. He actually has made, I think, a few cents off by doing it, but also by having something like that, it gives you effectively a very low risk way to maybe hedge yourself and your portfolio against some dramatic event unfolding over the weekend when everything else is closed. So just an intriguing one. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, you should be checking out the Vol Views show because interesting nuggets like that pop out there all the time. All right, let's go around the horn. Let's go to our defending, reigning, undisputed champion out there on the trivia side. And looking so far, the trend for this year is he's going to retain Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, you were probably a little bit younger than me at that time, so I'm not sure if you have any memories of the attempt on Reagan. I barely remember it. And then B, what are your thoughts on what we're seeing out here in the market, sir?
No, I don't remember it. I mean, I'm trying to be a student of history as best I can, because if we don't know our history, we are destined to repeat it. Sad day, and I don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican. I mean, it's a sad day when Kennedy's shot, when Reagan was shot, when Trump is shot. I'd feel the same way if it's Trump, Biden, or whoever. Shooting your president ain't cool. And that's one of those things where we as a nation need to just rally around and say it's not cool. And even so, like Barack Obama even tweeted out right away, just saying how he condemned it. Joe Biden did. So this is one, not that I'm happy that anyone gets shot by any means, but one thing that I am happy about is that for the most part, I mean, there's always going to be some wackos out there. For the most part, our elected officials do get these things right. And it pains me to say that our elected officials get anything right, but you don't shoot our leaders. That ain't cool. Or our former leaders. We're America. Stop. That's kind of it. Now, in terms of the markets, I think that when we have something like this happening, I was really not expecting to say this, but never before in the history of the entire stock market has there ever been a better time to sell than today. We have new all-time highs in the S&P 500. It's something to where we continue to make new all-time highs. And I remember the January 6th events from roughly 4 years ago. It's interesting. I remember we used to joke during the COVID era saying, yeah, I mean, what if a worldwide pandemic breaks out? Then stuff will get really bad. What if an attack on the Capitol happens or whatever, a riot in the Capitol, whatever way you want to look at it happens, then things will get bad. But they never did. Markets don't care. They just keep going up. And so it's a very unique time, to say the least. So why on earth are these markets going up? Well, I mean, I think that they're the combination of just the lust of AI along with the fear of inflation. It's not necessarily actual inflation. I think it's fear of inflation is more relevant than actual inflation. I think those things are happening, and in general. So on here, this is a great time, in my opinion, to be long the market and hedging yourself in some way, shape, or form. I really like that strategy right now. We have a 13 VIX, and we continue to make new all-time highs. So do you buy it now? Do you sell it now? Do you get in? Do you get out? Well, I want to ride the bull, by gosh. But on the flip side, I don't want to get bucked off, because if the markets are at all-time highs, they can go down very quickly, as we all know. But we have the ability to buy puts. This is a great hedged equity market, in my opinion, with it. Apple's another example. It's up almost 2% on the day. I was talking about a little bit on the last show. I have a client that's had a normal size position. It's become a very oversized position, but I'm not going to sell it. I think it's ridiculous that's going up this quickly, this high. I'm not going to lie, and I'm the biggest Apple person on the show, but I'm not messing with that. So I'm literally calling my clients every couple of days saying, hey, we rolled up the put again. Well, when do you think we're going to sell it? I don't know, but not today. So we're just going to roll up the put. We're going to take more money out of your bond funds and just use them to buy puts. And if you get mad at me for spending a couple bucks on puts every few days when Apple's going up $5 a day, I don't know what to tell you. So, but he's very happy with what we're doing with that one. And like I said, I think the key to being in these markets right now, I think you need to keep your buy and hold strategies, buy and hold. You need to stay long and stay long. But if you're unsure of what to do, I really believe this is an amazing time to just be buying a stock and buying a put in general. And that's my take for today.
Yeah, I think we can all hope if anything good can come out of this madness, it's that a bit of de-escalation across the board. Never hurt anybody on the left, on the right. Everybody just kind of take a step back, take a deep breath, and maybe calmer, cooler, saner heads will prevail out there. Of course, I say saner heads, and now I toss it to the rockingest of lobsters. Mr. Rock Lobster, sir, if you have any thoughts on that fateful day back in 1981, I think you were 27 at the time. And then B, what's catching your eye in this surprisingly raucous start to the trading week?
What was I? Was I 27? No, I was a little. No, I wasn't quite that old. I was in high school, I think. Yeah, well, maybe 17. I don't know, 15, 16. Yeah, that was surprising. I don't know. It kind of fits the same sort of oddball profile in a little ways. Like, what was it? Hinckley? Was that guy John Hinckley or whatever his name was? I think he's still mildewing away in jail or something. Kind of a lone nutcase, and who knows, when you look at Twitter, like the conspiracy theory stuff is like insane. Everybody has a phone. You know, what's going on? Why did they let it? All this kind of. So, you know, and I think it's, I don't know. It just at first glance, the profile seems kind of similar, to be honest. I think it was fortunate he missed. I don't think that would have been pretty terrible. It looks like by inches, but like he survived. It's like now, you know, obviously the Secret Service hopefully will get their act together, and not let somebody hang out on the roof 150 yards away. But the market in general, like, so I've been looking at the premium for like, well, let's just look at it this way. Look at what's happening to all the solar stocks right now. They're getting shellacked. Oil companies are going up. Businesses that I think folks think would be more favorable to a Trump administration are rallying, and things more favorable to a Biden administration are selling off, like TAN. That's just the solar ETF. So that's what the market appears to be right now. Another thing we have is like, okay, well, I feel this ratchets up the tension somewhat. However, that October future that has a kink in the vol curve is not going. It's actually lower today with VIX cash up. So for a while, when I was looking, like the vol products were down on the day. We actually made lows in all of the vol products this morning. And then now VIX is catching a bid. IWM is still holding firm, but you know, VIX is up 68 cents. It was in the mid 12s. So, I mean, and I keep thinking to myself, where has the volatility been in this market? Has it been on the downside or has it been on the upside? And the vol's all been on the upside. So I can't disagree with Mike's, a thesis. Like you want to be long and buy a put. The puts are so darn cheap relative to anything. Or be long SPY, long VIX, either one. So when you buy a put and you buy stock, that's a synthetic call. And in a bull market, a call is the best thing to have. There's nothing that comes close. And if the market falls apart, you always have the put to sell. You take that money and then you go buy more stock, or you roll it down and buy another put, And I think that's part of the problem. Like with people who are investing, is they're like, well, I don't want to get in up here. And, if you're going to invest, you have to take some risk. But if you buy a put, it's a lot easier to risk only 10% of your capital than 20 or 25. Or you buy a put even tighter, 5%. And you make sure you sell it when it's paying or roll it when it's paying. Because then the put does you no good. I think the only exception sometimes is you just let it, if it gets way in the money, you just leave it on and then you close it, or roll it at the last minute. Again, there's a lot of put trading strategies, but I think right now the volatility is in the upside. VIX is going up because the at the money volatility continues to glide higher. It does not go down. look at the call skew in the IWM, it's inverted in the short term. It's odd to have index volatility on a 1-week option where the call that's 3% out of the money has a higher vol than the at the money. So the vol is in the upside. I think these are a lot of cliches, but if there are a lot of folks that are underinvested and then all of a sudden they I missed this rally. I missed the IWM going up 10%, almost 10% in 5 days. I missed NVIDIA going up tenfold in 2 years. That's not exaggeration, by the way. Almost tenfold since the lows of October 2022. So you're going to start to see like people wanting to reach a little bit and climb in. Are there still stocks that are reasonable prices? I can think of a fine hot dog and rib stock. But I think there are also a lot of stocks that are crazy expensive that have driven the market up. So one thing I am seeing about this, and it's kind of weird, you saw that rally sort of happen before the weekend, when it felt like there was more trouble in the Biden camp. Is he going to run or is he going to drop out, not drop out? You started seeing a rally in IWM, which I call like more Main Street stocks, that I think would do better when inflation is more under control or a little more certainty on the regulatory environment, things like that. That could be another reason why IWM all of a sudden is woken up after, a 1-year slumber. You put IWM, against the Q, and you're like, wait, is this the same stock market that we're looking at for these two issues? So, I'm glad IWM is catching up. I own a little, because I figured it would eventually. But I mean, you look at the last, let's say 5 years, they were running kind of even there. And then all of a sudden we got the massive outperformance after October 2022 by it's not even close, 150% to 32%. So huge difference. And now maybe IWM is waking up. We were not even back to the highs of 2021. And I realized that was like the GameStop when we had all the weird meme stocks that were in the Russell that kind of jacked it up. But it basically has had, 2022, 23, 24, until just recently, it was going nowhere fast. So a little distribution of dollars out is okay, but as Tusa said, Apple's just up another whatever. Morgan Stanley has finally discovered Apple, apparently, after the $30 rally or $35, $40 rally in the last month. And they're now Apple's got something going on, which I thought was pretty typical Wall Street activity, to be quite honest. But you got SPX up, you've got VIX up on a Monday, which is not too crazy, although it was only up about 25 cents this morning. So the liquidity provider once again is dragging the at-the-money vol higher, which in 2024 has meant stocks going higher. So the long stock, long put, hard to argue with Mr. Tusa on that one. So, and I can't disagree with him at all either. It is a good control position to have. And I think folks are just, they're just selling puts and being happy about it because they keep going out worthless. So it's not always going to work like that, but at least for right now it is.
Let's see what else is working or perhaps not working out there in the market today, listeners. And looks like things are working across the board. Again, just a crazy, surprising start to this week. A lot of volume on the tape, kind of across the board. It's heavy everywhere we're looking. Let's kick things off in the VIX. Nearly 800,000 contracts on the tape right now. You might have expected a hot day, again, given the events we were just talking about over the weekend, but still nearly 800,000 already. If you're wondering what's lighting it up out there, it's 63,000 almost of the AUG 20s coming in for number one, followed by 60,000 for number two of the SEP 16s. Number three, 60,000 as well of the AUG 45. So there was that AUG vertical. Maybe they're unwinding some of that. 37,000 for number 4 of the SEP 15s, and then 37,000 for number 5 as well of the SEP 15 puts and 15 calls, going up the same amount. So could be our synthetic friend versus the SEP, maybe unwinding some of that as well. SPY at 6 million contracts already. Let me say that again, 6 million. Usually expect to see SPY 4.2, 4.3, maybe 4.5 million if things are robust out there. Nope, 6 million today. The ADV is 6.75 million. Yeah, we're going to hit that. Might even hit that by the end of the show. The S, same deal, similarly heavy, 1.96 million contracts. So closing in on 2 million contracts already. We usually expect it around 1.75 million. The ADV is a little over 3 million. We're probably going to hit that today as well pretty easily. Small caps, man, I mean, this ADV is not even relevant anymore. The ADV is 1.35. That already seems like a lot for small caps. And small caps saying, hold my bear, kids. 2.12 million contracts, as the Rock Lobster alluding to. Calls are actually bid out there now. Which, again, when's the last time you saw calls bid in a major index? The last time you saw it, I do believe, was small caps as well. So very rare to see that in a major index. Probably not going to see it in the S&P outside of some really aberrant short-term scenarios. But in the small caps, it can happen, and it's happening again out there to the tune of 2.12 million. Let's look really quickly. I know it's going to be mostly zero-day nonsense out there, but let's look nonetheless. What is the big dog out here right now in small caps? IWM, 86,000 of the 215 puts expiring today. Wow. Puts. Interesting. I didn't have that in my bingo card, given everything we've seen. Usually calls are leading the dance, but not today. Followed by 71,000 of the SEP 206 puts. So it's not all 0 day. That's interesting as well. Number 3, 60,000 of the regular monthly July. So you got the rest of the week, 220 calls. We're at a 216, almost a 217 in IWM right now. Again, all 3 of those are opening. Then we got 58,000 for number 4 of the SEP back to September, 203 puts. Those might be closing, so you might have a little bit of roll action in the SEP puts for number 4 and number 2 there. Number 5, we have 57,000 of the 216 puts, again, going out today, and then those are opening as well. So, yeah, a lot of near-dated and a little bit longer-term put paper out here. Only one call in the top 5 in small caps. That's kind of interesting as well. And then rounding out the top 5 in the index front here, of course, we have the Qs, 2.75 million, so another banger out there. The ADV, about 3.5 million, probably going to hit that pretty easily today as well. Let's get out the single names. You could tell what events are driving things, listeners, just by looking at our top 10. Just coming in at number 10, cost you 292,000 contracts. This is the name we've mentioned, of course, before. It's a news-driven name, but never really in our top 10 before. This is DJT, a.k.a. the Trump media stock. Again, if there's a more politically driven underlying, I'm hard-pressed to think of one right now. This one, 292,000 contracts on the tape for the number 10 spot, up $10.20, trading 41.10. It's up 33% today. You don't need me to tell you why that is. Again, this thing trades. There's no underlying. There's no, fundamentals to this. This is all purely news driven. You love Trump, you buy it. You hate Trump, you sell it. One of those type of things. People are clearly responding to what we saw out here over the weekend. In terms of action, what is the big dog out here? It's surprise, surprise. I said we're at a 41. It's the July 50s, 5-0s, nearly 30,000 of those on the tape already. So, I mean, this thing's popping hard. It's up a third today. You got another almost $9 to go to make these 50s pay off by the end of the week. If that's not doing it for you, listeners, we got also about 20,000 of the July 80s also this week. I'm going to hope, again, this is kind of crazy paper, so you never know. But I'm going to hope that paper is selling those and that it's the other leg of perhaps a 50-80 vertical. Because if you're straight buying the weekly 80s, I might have to put a Natenberg in front of you out here. Let's look really quickly. Yeah, they're trading. Looks like paper probably selling them for prices between 40 and 75 cents. Like up to 90 cents, actually. So let's hope someone's legging into a vertical there. Because if you're buying, the 50s are crazy enough. You don't need the 80s. But again, these are the times we're all living in, listeners. DJT number 10. Number 9. Again, a funky top 10 today. We go out to Sirius XM Holdings. $3.90, up 20 cents, or about 5% today. On the year, it's had a low of $2.45 and a high of about $8. So about $1.50 off of its low out there right now. Oh, they're coming up to a merger. So that's probably what's driving this. Either way, more buyers and sellers today. Good for number 9, 326,000 contracts. Number 8, keeping it in S names. We got SoFi getting some juice back today, trading $7.39, up 42 cents or nearly 6% today. Its low for the year is $6.15, so it's about $1.15 off of that low. 352,000 contracts, and the number 8 spot today. Number 7, going to the A tech names, it's AMD, 181.5, off about a dime, so kind of unched right now. On the day, it's had a range of little over, actually about almost $5.50. It's 185.50 on the upside, and almost 180 even, 180.10 on the dark side today. So kind of an interesting range, hanging out at number 7 right now, 389,000 contracts. Number 6, Palantir, kind of hanging out where, man, almost threatening $30 out here, Palantir. Wow, $29. Again, it's a defense-centered name. You have these types of events that tends to drive some of these names. But intriguing. Intriguing stuff for Palantir. Up nearly $1 today, about 81 cents. Just ticked down a little bit, 28.88. They hit their 52-week high, probably all-time high. Maybe not. I'll have to go back to see the all-time high. 52-week high, though, definitely. 29.30. Today out here. Yeah, all-time high. No, they got higher back in 2021. They got up to about, looks like about $35. So not quite there, but my goodness, they were sub $10 back in not that long ago. That was May of last year, and they were $16 back at the beginning of this year. So yeah, a good run for them. Number 6, Palantir. Looks like they're 423,000. Looks like they're becoming a middle of the top 10 kind of stalwart now. Number 5, keeping it in crypto. We'll get more into this in a little bit on the crypto rundown, obviously, listeners. Our buddy Mr. Greg will be joining us there again. It's number 5. It's Mara, 448,000 contracts. Mara popping hard today. 24.20, up almost $3.50 or 16.5%. So this one's been on the rampage. That will be pleasing to some of the, I know there's some open upside call paper here that's going away soon. So those folks will be happy today. Number 5, 448,000. Number 4, it's the Amazonians taking a break today, right before their prime days, selling it off a little bit. 191.83 off 266, or about 1.3%. Good for number 4, 578,000 contracts. Number 3, it's the Fruit Company, 1.15 million contracts. 235.20 is where they're hanging up 465, or a little over 2%. As the Rock Lobster pointed out, Morgan Stanley, they're now a top pick for AI. We were just joking not too long ago that Apple was an also-ran in the AI game, but also they had the capital if they wanted to commit to it to maybe turn that around. Apparently Morgan Stanley decided that they have. Either way, popping hard today. Good for number 3, 1.15. Number 2, it's Tesla. My goodness, 261.25, up $13 or 5.25%. So the woes of EVs don't seem to be affecting this name at all. I guess that's what you call the old pivot, right? Talk about robo-taxis, talk about robots. Forget about the EVs that you're slashing prices on day after day out here, and that the average sale price of an EV has fallen from about $60,000 just about a year and a half ago to somewhere around $30,000 now. So cut nearly in half, but we won't talk about that. Instead, we'll pump the stock $11.50, nearly 4.65%, 259.78. If anyone's the masters of the shell game out there, it's Tesla, though Apple looking pretty good at it these days as well. And then number 1, you know what it is. It's NVIDIA, 128.40, off about 85 cents, not even 1%. Good for 2.13 million contracts on the tape out there today. Earnings on the docket this week. We had Goldman today, BlackRock today, tomorrow Bank of America and PNC. So if you like your financials, the early sessions of earnings season really got you covered. Wednesday, J&J, more banks, U.S. Bancorp, Northern Trust. Got some airlines in there, United Airlines. If you like your aluminum, you got Alcoa for all the Brits out there. And you know who you are. And then I can always tell, by the way, a long-time listener when they write in about rolled aluminum. And then we got Discover on Wednesday as well. So still a lot of financials coming up. Thursday, we got Domino's, a Pizza, and Netflix. And Friday, we've got Amex, the credit cards, not the exchange. And then Halliburton and Comerica out there right now. Goldman, really quickly, because they were popping off before the bell today. They're trading nearly $500 going into their announcement, 479.88. They were pricing in 3.7%. They delivered 0.9%, so they were anemic on the ball front. They have moved 1.3% now, so a little bit more, but still less than half of what the straddle was pricing in. So interesting stuff afoot out there. If you want to check out those reports for yourselves, only one place to go. TheOptionsInsider.com is the place to go to learn more as we keep on going into a little bit of the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for The Odd Block.
All right, everybody, let's do it. Let's dive into a little bit of weird paper out there. If what we just ran down wasn't enough weird paper, let's get some more for you. Let's go out to, this is a name we haven't talked about in a while. This is TKO Group Holdings. You know them, the parent company of our beloved WWE as well as UFC, kind of combined into one combat sports conglomerate, I suppose you can call it, out there. They're killing it. Just looking at WWE tickets, what they're selling it for, my goodness. And then UFC on top of it. You never would know there's economic problems out there because they're selling this stuff. I've been to a few WWE events of late, and yeah, those tickets are not cheap. So yeah, they're loving it. Apparently not loving it today though. Out here, stock taking a bit of a whooping. 106.65 off 440, or nearly 4%. So this puts today's paper in some more intriguing light. They have had a little bit of a run lately. I know they did some sort of private equity deal a few months ago, and that's why the stock is at this a little bit loftier valuation. I think Endeavor dumped some of their holdings, and so that deal valued it at a little bit higher level, which is why it's back north of triple digits, listeners, if you haven't been paying attention out here. In terms of on the year, this one pretty much a year ago was $80 and change. And remember, and then it got rallied, then it got dumped back down to about $80 again. Remember, when Vince McMahon, who was the former owner and founder of WWE, was dumping a lot of his shares pre-scandal. Then it had this nice run, part of it driven by this, obviously ticket sales doing well, and also by this private equity transaction out here. Looks like coming off the top now. The top was 113.30. It's like they hit that just looks like about a couple of weeks ago, early July, and then since then they've come off the top, including a bit of a drubbing today, off 4% or $4.50. Again, I don't see the news that is crushing it out there today. But a long way around to saying it makes this paper today look a little bit more interesting. Mr. Rock Lobster, somebody was loving themselves some TKO this morning, wanting to get the old knockout, the technical knockout, if you will. They came in and looks like they scooped 2,498 of the AUG 115s. Remember, I said listeners are at about a little bit shy of 107 right now. They paid through the nose for these too. The market was $1.40 at $1.75. They said we'll take them all for $1.79. So they obviously paid through the offer, listeners, to get these done. There's not a lot of liquidity offered there at $1.75. I think just looking at the numbers out there for TKO, this is obviously not a hot options name. Its ADV is 1,700 contracts. So this one trade alone, more than the entire day's worth of volume. They've done about 2.5 times their normal volume already today. So that also explains for why they had to go through the offer a little bit out here. The stock at the time was not that much higher. I thought it was much higher, but it's not that much higher. 107.7. So you're talking about 24 cents higher than it is right now. So not exactly earth-shaking move in the stock. Looking at this, it seemed kind of rich to me. It's about a 33 vol. But it just seemed like this person was really not just reaching from a execution perspective, but also from a price perspective. So my first blush when I saw this was, oh, maybe this is a stock substitution. The stock has run up quite a bit. But then they're buying the 115s. You don't usually see, and it's August, you don't usually see that near dated and that far out of the money for a stock substitution play. Usually you get a little bit longer term and a little bit meatier out there if you are going to do it that way and take some stock off against it. I don't see any tide legs going up with it as well. So Mr. Rock Lobster, it does seem like it is what it appears to be on the surface, which is somebody just really had to have these August 115s paying quite a bit for them. Worth noting, I should mention, there are earnings August 8th, so that probably accounts for some of this juice we're seeing here. But still, it's a pretty meaty swing at the near-term bat in TKO, and so far, not looking great, Mr. Rock Lobster. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, you know what's funny is I took this off our list. I forgot to, because we were talking about this. We were pretty. I thought we had a good narrative going that McMahon was just doing the old slam dunk, screw you guys, and then I'll just do what I want with the stock. And I took it on because this was in like the 70s, as I recall.
Yeah,
like
it was high 70s.
It was like,
that. Yeah, it was like 78, something like that. Yeah.
You know, whenever there's that. I totally forgot this stock, but whenever there's trouble with Vince McMahon and anything related to WWE, and it makes the stock price tank, you got to buy it. Because I think that guy cares more about WWE and all that than his children at this point. So he just, he's a little like Trump. He kind of, he bounces back. Let's just put it that way.
I think that's literally true because before he was gone, he fired all of his children from the company. So he clearly he clearly valued the company more than his own family. But that's a conversation for another day.
Yeah, that's a conversation for another. However, now here's the thing. They bought the August 24 115 calls. They are higher. They are priced higher right now. I'm seeing 205, 210 on them. So
they must be friends with the market maker. What's going on?
They must be. I mean, the 110 straddle is, $9. It's a little in the money. So I'll say like a fair strangle value is probably $6 out there, somewhere around there. If you had a synthetic 106.75 strike, it's probably about $5.50, $6. That's where I'd make it. And these are not unreasonable. What's weird is August is only 6 weeks away. August expiration.
Yeah, it seems so far in the distance, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's so. Again, I don't think they're unreasonable calls, but you're going to need, the stock is going to have to help an awful lot to get there, I think. That's my view on these ones. But this is kind of a story stock. So you get a good Vince McMahon, you get good earnings. You could see the stock of $10. So I don't think they're unreasonable, but they're gonna need some help they're gonna need some really good news for this to pay. I mean, they're already at money, so it's passing the first test, but let's see here. They don't. I mean, even with the K, how low does that August 115 call get? It probably doesn't get a whole lot below $1.50 if the stock stays here, even if it's $9 out of the money. So, yeah, they don't have a lot of decay risk. I take that back earlier because I forgot about the earnings, but yeah, not obviously. It's up money. It's the day one test, and it is a story stock. This is one to watch. I think we should re-review this one on the. Somewhere around expiration.
We'll definitely come back on August 8th because that's when the earnings are. So we'll know.
Yeah, because that's going to tell the story.
Yeah, that's going to tell the story. And you're right, it probably won't decay too much until that date. And listeners, the stock's down and the options are up, the calls are up. A classic sign of a very illiquid name, which gets back to what we were saying before. They've already done about 2.5 times their ADV just in this one trade. So that's really why the options are up now, obviously. But still, fun to make fun nonetheless. As we keep on rolling, let's go out to... This is a newcomer, I do believe. I don't think we've talked about this one on the show before. This is Rush Street Interactive Inc., ticker symbol RSI. So not the relative strength index or anything like that. Nope. Not a technical indicator by any means. Just a new ticker to add to the list here, listeners. RSI trading right now $9.50, up 65 cents or about 7.3%. By the way, what is this? They exist to ignite the thrill of winning with players no matter where they find themselves. Oh, this is looks like it's an online gambling / gaming name, but they have Bet Rivers here, so it's more than just these look like online kind of slot machines and stuff. So yeah, they're there to take money out of your pocket virtually, listeners. Again, looks like a good day for them on the year. Also a pretty banger year for RSI. I wonder why this one hasn't come on our radar before. It's up $6.17 or 183% over this past year. My goodness. Good year for them. And it looks like somebody, Mr. Rock Lobster, thinks the party is continuing out here in RSI. Looking at this chart, it's hard to fault them. They came in this morning. They said, AUG 10s, how are they? Stock was $9.28, and the market was 45 cents at 50, so pretty tight. They said, done, we'll buy them. We'll get 404 for 50. Then they came back, says, how are they now? And they said, 45 cents at 60 now. And they said, done, we'll buy them for 60, 1,781 more times. And they kept going. They had a total of 2,700 coming into the start of the show. Let's see if they've done any more since then, listeners, because it has been a fairly active strike, about the same amount. So 2,700 is their number. There are earnings before August expiration. They're on July 31st, so that accounts for some of this. But this is this chart has been on fire. Just even today, it's on fire. So I don't know, 50 to 60 cents for the AUG 10s, Mr. Rock Lobster. Are you loving these? Are you loving a little Rush Street interactive call love?
We got it. We got a new stock. I'm thrilled that we got a new name.
That's what I live for, just to give you new names to track.
Okay, it's a $9 stock. They're coming in for some call. Again, not unreasonable calls. Wow, I mean, again, this is day, right? The second stock we looked at, and you got a winner chicken dinner on your first day buying calls. I think this is probably something to watch. The company makes a little bit of money, so it's not a total flim-flammery thing. Let's see here. Pretty steady buy action on this thing. I mean, it has revenue, almost $1 billion a year in revenue. So, social gaming. So it's probably like online poker houses and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I don't think these are unreasonable at all. I mean, it's a $2 billion market cap, kind of like a DraftKings-y thing. Not unreasonable. I have to say these are not unreasonable at all.
Rock Lobster, loving our 2 daily swing for the fences out here, listeners. We'll keep an eye on both of these. We got a little bit of time. We'll know TKO. Actually, we'll know this one on July 31st. We'll know this one sooner, whether they're paying off or not. They might be paying off by the end of the day at this rate. We'll see. Speaking of the end of the day, we're coming up against it, so it's time to get to Uncle Mike and his strategy block.
It's time to dispense options, wit, wisdom, and education. It's time for the Strategy Block.
All right, Uncle Mike, the floor is yours, sir. What do you got in store for us today?
Let's talk politics. As Mark Longo cringes as I open with that. Let's talk politics. Right now, the election is not right around the corner, but it's getting close. We're at the Republican convention right now, and it's getting closer, folks. And if you're concerned about Election Day, tomfoolery, chaos, skullduggery, whatever the case may be, now is not a bad time to consider looking into buying some type of protection for your portfolio. I know I talked about a lot on the strategy block earlier in the show on the trading block, to where I really like being long equities and long put options right now. And so if you are concerned of some type of a downturn in the election, there's an old saying, fire insurance is really cheap before the house is on fire. So here's what I mean by that. We have a 13 VIX right now. And if all of a sudden, let's say that the Democrats want to change candidates, Trump gets shot and killed, or whatever the case may be, if something truly bad happens, and I'm not trying to say this last weekend was not bad by any means, but in terms of the election in and of itself, it's not going to make a difference. Trump's going to have a Band-Aid on his ear. Big whoop. So with that being said, it's not a major move. But if you're concerned of a major move of some sort, what I want to go with for a strategy is look into how you can lock in VIX premium now. So in other words, let's say that a bunch of craziness happens and we're 2 or 3 months later, volatility is up significantly. Well, you kind of missed out on it. And if all of a sudden the VIX is at a 28, then the value of your protection is going to be significantly higher. in general. The other thing with which you need to think about is, where do you want to do your hedge until? Are you considering hedging until the day after the election? Are you considering hedging until January? Are you considering hedging maybe 2 weeks after the election? Those are all questions with which you need to answer. So in terms of the strategy block for today, what I want to emphasize, you have something going in your favor if you're looking to hedge right now, and that's relatively lower option prices. So in other words, what you can do if you want to go out to December or January right now with some type of a hedge for the election, then you're going to be doing it with a 13 VIX. If you wait till tomorrow, you might not be, or it might be a 12 VIX tomorrow. Who knows? My point is I do think it's something to consider if you are looking to hedge yourself for the election, because if you wait until October 30th, you might not get the prices you want on the options you're looking to hedge yourself with. We'll be doing a webinar on this on Wednesday night to talk about this a little bit further. But for now, that is the strategy block for today.
All right, listeners, it's time for us to go around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to Around the Block. Just doing some digging during the strategy block here, because we were talking about DJT before. I haven't really talked about them in our top 10. Just looking at what the size positions are out there out of curiosity. The number one size position, DJT, up 30-odd% today, trading $41, I believe. It's the Jan 2.5 put, 31,000 of those. Followed by number 2, the SEP 2.5 put, 17, almost 18,000 of those. So that's getting back to the old Tesla catastrophe put days out there. Speaking of which, if you wanted to put on some positions out here, if you think today's move maybe is overdone, I was looking at just how juicy the downside is in this name. And if you go out to October, it's trading 41 right now. The 20 put, so over a 50% downside move, is trading north of $3, $3.50 right now. So that is a fair amount of juice, to be sure. By the way, just to keep things equitable out there, if you want to go out to the par calls as well, those are trading almost $2.75 with the stock $41. So yeah, I think it's fair to say there's some juice in the wings here in DJT. My goodness, at the money straddle going out to October 24, about $25 it looks like out here. So you could buy that straddle, sell these wings for at least $5. You could buy the 41 and then sell the straddle for $20, like we said. What was it? $25. That's rich. And then sell the wings par and 20. What do we say? And get about $6 back. Not exactly a good do, but just crazy to see how juicy these wings are here, listeners. But let's go around the horn really quickly. Let's pay off some of our polls before we do that from last week. We joked about our ketchup on a hot dog poll, our flash poll from Options Bootcamp. 70% of you agreed with me, though. It is okay to put ketchup on a hot dog. 30% say no. And then so 30% of you are diehard, dogmatic Chicagoans. The rest of you, sensible, sane folk. And then we also had, this one surprised me. We did a flash poll on vol views as well. We were talking with Russell about all this action out here in Russell 2000. So it got us wondering maybe is it time to revisit RVX or some other vol product on the Russell 2000? Would you trade it if it was listed? So let's say a return of RVX. 55.6% of you said no. 44.4% said yes. That kind of surprised me. That was only a flash poll, so that was kind of a brief 1 hour thing. I think if we ran it for a longer term, obviously we have a lot of diehards in our audience. You want more vol products to trade, so that kind of surprised me. We might have to revisit that in a little bit of a longer time frame. Meanwhile, though, it's time to revisit each of our cohorts here, see what they're keeping an eye on for the rest of the week until the Thursday show. Let's start with the Rock Lobster, sir. What are you keeping an eye on?
Well, we do have this election going on, where the Biden campaign comes down. Is he going to leave? Is he not going to leave? But I think we do have probably the biggest earnings season in a while because stocks are so high and they are priced at such giddy heights. We had some good earnings from the banks for the most part, Wells Fargo, of course, because they're just dirty. But Goldman came in with decent earnings. You're not getting a lot of stock action because the stocks are already year highs for the most part, the banks. But Taiwan Semiconductor this week, I think, is let me get the date right. I don't want to give Tusaw the wrong earnings date. I know how touchy he is about that. The 18th. So if you see a big number, decent number out of TSM, I think you're going to get it in other stocks. That could be good follow through. It could, it could also be sell the news, right? Because, all right, everybody, they're made money, but they're also trading at ridiculous levels, so we're going to sell them. So I think we're going to see a lot on that. So today's the 15th, so that is Thursday before the market opens. And again, whatever comes out of this crazy election. So that is the stuff I am looking at.
Mr. Uncle Mike, same question for you. Obviously, we could have a VP pick coming any moment, maybe tonight, maybe early this week. So a lot to keep an eye on. What are you focusing on until our next show?
I mean, just all-time highs. I mean, that's the big thing with me. And looking to get prepared for what we can't prepare for. And so, in other words, just continuing to try and enjoy the fact that we are in rally ho mode, but also trying to protect against the fact that it might not stay that way.
Yeah, this weekend's events also putting into interesting light, just, you're right, how cheap that protection is in hindsight, given the possibility for any of these aberrant events to really derail this machine. Unfortunately, listeners, the machine that is the option block coming to a close. Not derailed, though, not by a long shot. We'll be back again on Thursday. I'll be back in a little bit to talk some crypto, Uncle Mike's favorite thing. But before we do that, let's go around the horn and see what everyone has that may interest you. Let's start with you, Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, as our reigning defending champion. Where should folks go if they want to check out these webinars or anything else?
Follow me on Twitter at Mike Tusaw, Tosaw. We have a webinar coming out this Wednesday night on election protection. There is a link on my Twitter page. Looking forward to seeing a lot of you folks there. And that's what I'm watching. Or that's where you can find me. Sorry.
And Mr. Rock Lobster, same question for you. What good goodies do you have for the folks? This is where he has muted himself, listeners. So I will do his plug for him.
Sorry, 888-TRADE-01. Also Wednesday, we have a webinar at 8 o'clock. We are releasing a cheap option finding scanner, so go check it out. So we figure out how you look for cheap options that are going to explode. It's a not miss. Check it out Wednesday, free webinar. And anything for me, 888-TRADE-01, you get 10% off. There you go.
Is Mark ever going to release this SVIX thing he's been talking about forever? He's been teasing us
You're
forever.
supposed to keep that quiet.
We talked about it on VolViews.
He actually talked about it on VolViews.
He didn't say what it was, but I keep asking about it.
It will be out, within probably 2 weeks.
He keeps teasing it, so we got to have someday. Okay, 2 weeks.
I know, it is coming.
It's coming. All right, listeners, check it all out, optionpit.com. And, of course, you know where to go. Check out all the fun over there on the brokerage side, public.com, the place to go to kick the tires and light the fires. Tell them we sent you. It does go a long way towards keeping all these free shows flowing into your inbox. Have been doing so now for, 17 years. Crazy to say that out loud. Checking out the chat here, you folks taking umbrage on the ketchup side. Option God, no ketchup on hot dogs. I am the only true Chicagoan. And we've got Nichols. He just says he doesn't eat hot dogs. So there you go. You have no skin in this game then, Nichols. So intriguing stuff out there, listeners. We'll be back in a little bit with the crypto rundown, then back again throughout the rest of the week. I do believe we have double pro Q&As coming at you this week, so stay tuned for that. A bounty, an embarrassment, dare I say it, of riches on the pro side this week. If you want to check all that fun for yourselves, only one place to go, theoptionsinsider.com/pro, the place to go to learn more. Then back again with our usual array of content till we're back again on Thursday, another episode of The Option Block. And I do mean it. Stay safe out there, everybody.
Most options trading platforms are commission-free, and there are some that don't charge per-contract fees. Public.com goes a step further. When you trade options on Public, there are no commissions, no per-contract fees, and you get a rebate of up to 18 cents per contract traded. That means it costs less than $0 per transaction. In other words, instead of paying to place options trades, you literally earn money, and that money can add up fast. If you trade 1,000 option contracts on Public, you'll earn up to $180 in rebates. 10,000 contracts? Up to almost $1,200. It's pretty obvious why NerdWallet recently gave options trading on Public 5 out of 5 stars. Because Public really stands out for the cost of its options trades. Their words, not ours. If you want to start paying less than $0 to trade options, check out Public.com and get a rebate of up to 18 cents per contract traded. Paid for by Public Investing. Options not suitable for all investors and carry significant risk. Full disclosures in podcast description. U.S. members only. You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.